And we're live with our 255th episode of Absolute AppSec. I'm Ken Johnson at CK Tricky on social media, joined by my co-host Seth Law at Seth Law on social media. Seth, say hi.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. We are excited to be back in our own homes, in our own beds after spending the last, feels like the last month in Las Vegas because, right, like living on the strip is that's just how great it is. But we are going to get into all the things today. First up, though, training.absoluteappsec.com. We are offering a course in Melbourne in just about a month, I think, from today, almost. I'm pretty sure it is, about 4 weeks from today. We're offering a practical secure code review with generative AI in Melbourne, Australia. This is a public course. Anyone is welcome to sign up. We still have spots available. If you are a listener, if you are interested, please join us. It will be a great time. This is the first time that we've been back to that portion of the world, of the globe, since 2019, since the pre-pandemic days. So we're excited to get back to see all of our friends down there and, just give the course. On top of that, there is still an opportunity for a practical secure code review, also with generative AI. They are all with generative AI nowadays. In Paris in November with DEF CON trainings. That one is training.defcon.org. We'll drop the links in here momentarily, but that will be available as well. We have not taught the course in Europe for quite a while either, since DeepSec, I think, was the last time. And that was a couple of years ago. So, if you can make it, please do. Outside of that, let me see. I do want to give a shout out to Redpoint. Redpoint's going to be the sponsor today for the podcast. That is Redpoint Security. Redpoint specializes in code security by coders, which is bolstered by years of experience testing applications and conducting code reviews against all types of applications. Redpoint also offers secure code training to help ground your teams in better security practices across the development lifecycle. They even have a new security awareness course for developers. That's a shortened course for Security Awareness Month in October this year. So check out redpointsecurity.com for more information and to put your company on a path to better security. Thanks, Redpoint. Now, with that all out of the way, Ken, how was Vegas for you? Well, how was Vegas for you?
First of all, let's get something straight. Let's get something straight. Because I was telling Seth this before. Like, I got back. First of all, I only slept 2 hours in my own bed last night, and I got back, to the house well after midnight and to bed late. So I am still very haggard and very fresh from Vegas. But also, this Monday coming up, I'm going right back to Vegas for Monday through Friday for a different conference. It's what is it? Enterprise. I should know this. Enterprise Technology Leadership Summit, I think is what it's called. ETLS. It used to be DOES. It's like Gene Kim's conference. We've got a booth there for like 3 days, 20th through the 22nd. So I got to go right back to Vegas and work a booth again. Which, since you asked about my experience, I actually gosh, where to start, man. So I got in on, first of all, what day? You flew in on Monday, right? Okay, all right. So I got in the next day, and then we went Tuesday because we won the Black Hat Startup Spotlight for Dry Run Security, which I'm oh my God, I'm so proud of, very, very grateful for. There are some things that came along with that. So like we got, for instance, a very, I don't know if I should put the number out there, but a very expensive booth for free.
Yeah, one of the startup booths. Yeah, Black Hat booths are no joke, man. It's like, we know. I mean, everybody bananas, like how expensive it is for a 10 by 10 booth at Black Hat, at RSA. I mean, that's how they really pay for the conference. You think that the attendee, expenses are bad? You should see how much it is to get a booth and actually be at one of those. because I mean, those big booths, especially that you see like Google or Microsoft or, CrowdStrike, right? Like whatever, those
Oh
big
yeah,
booths, they're spending just for the space itself, not for like outfitting it, just for the space itself. You're six figures easy, right? Six figures easy.
it's
And
nuts.
it's nuts. It is nuts.
I
Anyway,
the,
sorry. Yeah.
the size and the magnitude of some of those booths and were just incredible. I mean, we just had a low. No, I shouldn't say no because I'm very grateful. It wasn't, but it was we're the startup side, so smaller booths, all kind of, and then but those bigger booths like RSA style. Yeah, they were. Oh man, Black Hat RSA style, big vendor booths are just something else. I love it, but so I'm going to talk about how that works though, because how the actual competition works, because I didn't know too much about it myself, and then through conversations with people, they had a lot of questions. So obviously, I'm not the only one who doesn't know a lot about it. So, well, or how it kind of works or whatever. So a bunch of companies all submit to this competition. There are four finalists picked. All four finalists get the following package I'll explain. So you get that booth for free, which is amazing. You get your name and logo and materials put out there, of course. But there's also a couple other cool things. So there's a startup theater inside of the expo hall. So on the last day of your booth, you get to go give a 20-minute talk, and James Wickett, my co-founder, our CEO, he gave that talk there. But also going back to Tuesday, when I got in Tuesday, we had a few hours before we had to head over, and James was one of the four CEOs on stage giving, or actually just say co-founders, because Jimmy Mesta gave a really good talk. I'll talk about that in a second. He's a CTO. He's over at Rad Security, but anyway, so each of the four finalists get to go on stage. You've got 5 minutes to talk about your product, and you've got 5 minutes to answer questions from the judges. When it's all done, so when all four have gone, immediately the judges leave the table. They go to the back behind the stage. They deliberate, and then they come out in a relatively short amount of time. It actually took a little bit of time. Shout out to Eaton Wursel from Mob.ai, who entertained the crowd. Mob.ai was the winner from last year. So he came up on stage, kind of entertained the crowd while the judges deliberated. They came out. They ended up choosing Gnostic, which is a company that helps kind of create some RBAC or ACLs around LLM data. The CEO is Sunil. I forget his last name. Pretty well-known person. Everybody did a really good job. I was really impressed, obviously, by my co-founder. He did an amazing job. He is a natural speaker, and that was awesome. But I was going to give a shout out too to Jimmy Mesta, because man, when they went on stage and Rad Security did their pitch, I was like, oh, okay, I don't know about us. That was pretty crazy. That was really, really good, Jimmy. Really, really good. So I was just a shout out to Jimmy there and Rad Security. And then Leak Signal was also one of the panel finalists. All right, so what happens for all four finalists is, like I said, you do that. Whoever wins, I don't know what the winner gets besides the title. But yeah, obviously working in the booth, we've got lead gen out of that. So we get to scan for leads. And there were a couple other ancillary benefits to all this. Like we got some free passes. We gave one of our full conference passes away to a customer. So that was cool. And just, I don't know, all in all, man, I got to tell you, super grateful for the experience. It was the first time for me working a booth inside of an expo hall at a conference of that size. And actually, many people may not believe this, even though you and I have given training for Black Hat, that was virtual training. I've only been to Black Hat physically when Trey Ford and Chris Gates snuck. Well, Trey Ford snuck me in to lunch effectively so I could meet Chris Gates, because I was a real fan of Carnal Ownage. Now we live 5 minutes from each other and we're best friends and go to lunch all the time. At the time, I didn't know him from Adam, and this was in DC, and I knew of his work, and I was really, really like, oh, I'd love to meet him. And Trey was like, he's inside. I'll go, have you meet him. So anyways, that's all that to say, that's the amount of time I've ever, this booth, and then that was the only time I've actually physically been inside of Black Hat before.
Yeah. Black Hat's, interesting, right? Like, I mean, honestly, we go down every year, right? Like, not necessarily for Black Hat, but for everything that's going on there. What I found is that, personally, I've attended Black Hat probably, what, 5, maybe 7 times, right? Like, I even think when we taught it virtually that one year, I went down, or I was going down for DEF CON anyway, so I actually picked up the badge and went to some of the conference. But if you're speaking, obviously you show up. It is more corporate focused, right? Like from a research perspective. So like it's more business focused, startups, people selling products. There's not quite that same community, or there's not the community events that are running, the same types of events that run at B-Sides or DEF CON or even Diana Initiative, right? Like it's just, it's a different feel. It is more business, focused. So yeah,
there's value in that.
There is value in that, right? Like, I mean, because that's, everybody has to be paid at some level, right? Or at some point. And it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea for sure, right?
What was fun?
What
did you? Because like you've been there for long periods of time before, but remember, like for me, I don't usually fly in for Vegas during the Black Hat period of the week. For me, it's always usually DEF CON and then into DEF CON trainings the following week. So you and I would still, even like right now, be in a classroom training normally in Vegas. So for me, it was interesting just to watch the switchover of attendees in town, to watch that physical transformation that occurred.
It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Hilarious. I was like, dude, it was so funny. I was like, because I had my wife and my son with me, and I was like, it's because she even made a comment. She's like, oh, it's very like professional and blah blah blah. And I think she saw one mohawk and she was like, oh yeah, definitely the hacker crowd. I was like, wait, hold on a sec. Just wait a sec. So then it converted over. She's like, oh, like, yeah, it's different.
Now it's really the hacker. Yeah.
Anyways, it did crack me up, man. It really gave me, but yeah, it's fun to watch that switch over. I'd never seen it so concretely before, I don't think.
Yeah.
But things that surprised me, I think. I mean, well, yeah. Did you have any big surprises? Any things that you found
not
interesting this year? Or
yeah, I mean, this year was probably the first. This was the first year that I really prioritized. So first of all, Diana Initiative, right? I got down there early enough to attend that. We were one of the in-kind sponsors because we've been promoting them. They did a great job. That conference felt so supportive and such like just a bunch of good people all helping each other, right? Like it was great, right? I'll be honest, give a shout out to them. The support that they give to minority communities in the space and an opportunity to go speak, and like it is a different crowd than you see at even B-Sides. So I prioritize Diana and B-Sides even over like the Black Hat parties and events that were going on, because that's traditionally what I've done, is gone down to like the Black Hat stuff, the hallway con that's going on, gone to some of the parties, like just seeing people. But I prioritize B-Sides this time because it is a B-Sides event to Black Hat. Right? That is the idea. So most of the talks are things that people submitted either Black Hat and DEF CON that may or may not have gotten picked up. They're running a great conference as well. I saw some really interesting talks. Some of them were also at DEF CON. That's what I was just looking through, is what was I actually posting about? Because at this point I don't remember. Right. But at B-Sides, like Bola Buster, that's one of the new that was really good. I mean, from like hey, we're actually working on this, like we work with this sort of exploit and Portswigger and Burp Suite at the same time, like new extensions, new plugins, good research that's coming out of it. I always go back and forth with that at Black Hat just because it is so corporatized that it almost is like the research gets lost in the shuffle, right? The talks get lost in the shuffle, even though everyone's promoting them. There's just such a focus on the business side of things. So I appreciated the B-sides. Content is king there, right? That's basically what it comes down to. There's good workshops, there's good tracks that are running. I think they had 4 or 5 tracks this year. I met up with listeners from the podcast both days. So Juan was there working like as security, and then also Paul was there. We went to lunch one day, and
You gave him COVID.
yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yep. And then we didn't see him the rest of the week because he did. He
Thanks a lot,
COVID.
Seth.
Gosh, that was my whole plan. Just trying to be patient. 100. I don't know. Whatever.
Seth had some pocket COVID and just gave him some pocket COVID.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean we can dig into some of those talks if we want to. At some point, it just kind of depends on how the conversation goes today. But it was good, right? Like, I tried to kind of clear my schedule to make sure that I could actually get a flavor for both of those, and it worked out for me pretty well. And then we got into the DEF CON period, and we'll talk about that momentarily. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, what else to bring up on those? Go ahead.
Yeah, just any talks that you. Well, yeah, just I was going to ask about. Sorry, my Wi-Fi sucks today. I got to reboot my router. I just haven't gotten to it. Yeah, talks. Was there any talk, or was there any village, or was there any? Yeah, just anything that. One thing that stuck out to you more than anything. Yeah, during your week there.
During my week there, okay. So if I extend the whole week, right? DEF CON was great. I'm actually wearing my Goon shirt from the conference, right? I loved DEF CON specifically. AppSec Village, those guys are just keep pushing the boundaries there. They did a great job. I went and saw Haddock speak, and there was a couple other talks on the small stage there that are so relevant to what I do on a daily basis. And I do want to get into a little bit of what Haddock was talking about, the talk that not his bug bounty methodology, but the talk that he gave towards the end of the conference, or end of Friday, I think it was, about bug bounty, like the pain points of bug bounty was interesting, right? Like, the dark side of bug bounty, I think is what he called it. That was great. The SecDim was hosting the CTF at the Bug Bounty Village. It wasn't Pedram, but I did see, I talked to the SecDim guys that were running the CTF that was there. It looks like that was very successful. So AppSec Village, I mean, those are our people. So I was there, right? Tanya gave a great talk as well. I spent a lot of time there. Juan was helping out even at AppSec Village, and Erez. They just do a really good job. So AppSec Village was great. Social engineering community was super popular this year. That's also run by a couple of friends of mine. JC and Snow from Snowfensive organized the social engineering community at DEF CON. And, I mean, so fun to watch, right? Like the last day they do social engineering cold calls, which is entertaining, where you basically go up to a bucket and in front of the audience, they give you like an objective. Okay. And then they call someone, right? They call like a random business, and you have to figure out what the objective is and get the objective out of whoever it is that you're talking to while live on stage in a booth. Super stressful, but it's amazing to watch. It is like so much fun. JC's emceeing. You're in the people that are doing this are in like a soundproof booth. They're calling a random like department store, like whoever picks up the phone, they start asking them questions about like, oh, like what sort of uniform do you have to wear? Or right, like, oh, is there a policy about like, do you have to use 2F8, right? Like things like that. And man, it's entertaining and super interesting. Anyway, they do a great job. As far as official tracks, James Kettle, the Port Swigger guys were there. Well, James Kettle, like Albino Wax was not there. Like he had personal things come up, but he recorded his talk, the web caching stuff. And they always do great research and present it. We can dig into those talks, and I'm sure we will at a later date. But the war stories, yeah. But
yeah, you want to hear something just real quick?
Sure.
David Studdard. This is such a I'm so lame, dude. Like David Studdard walked. Yeah, hopefully you all know who David Studdard is. My God, Portswinger walked right in front of the booth in front of me, and I was too nervous to like say hi. I just like I think it was a little bit. I was like, oh, I was like shocked because he like walked right by our booth. He's like looking at our booth, looking at other people, and I was like, and I wanted to say something, and I literally got too nervous to go say anything. So, anyways, I'm super lame, but that's my David Studdard story.
I've seen him. He exists.
I've seen him. He's real. No, yeah. I was just like, anyways, tongue tied.
Yeah.
A little shock.
Cool. Sweet. But the other,
anyways,
the
you're
track
war stories, right?
the track at DEF CON that I probably liked the most was the war stories track. Was where it got a little bit outside of like just technical things, but people talking about their experiences and engaging on different topics. One of them was a talk by a librarian talking about how libraries are fighting or are trying to transition into a digital world when publishers don't want to actually sell you content. They only want to license it, and what that actually equates to, right? And then, recovery of content, of books, of video, of media, and how that's given to the public, how it's a public resource. That was one of the actually my favorite talks, and it was given by a trained librarian of all things at DEF CON, right? I always love listening to Cory Doctorow. He was on a couple of panels. He also gave a talk, the unshittification of the internet. It's pretty amazing. So I'm like all over the board, but I'm just like, I'm spinning through what happened this week in my head and what was enjoyable to me. Right. Yeah. So I don't know. Is there anything in there that I've mentioned that you want to dive into deeper that I should like pull up? Oh, besides this was amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So what can you explain to the people what they're looking at here?
This is a picture of people on the high roller. This was the DEF CON or the Absolute AppSec event that we held. We had an open bar and good security conversation while we did a loop in the high roller, which is the big Ferris wheel thing in Las Vegas at night, overlooking the strip, overlooking the sphere. It was just a really good time, right? Like what ended up being about 20 of us that did it completely. Wish we would have been completely full, but we almost got there, right? It was more that some of the people that signed up didn't actually come. So boo on them, but thanks to those that actually showed up and came out. It was great conversation. It was, and then we went to a bar after and continued talking about things. So
yeah, I mean, you got Jerry Gamblin there, Emily Patterson, you got Justin Collins, Talos, Juan, Chris Gates, actually behind you.
Yep.
A bunch of people. So it's, man, it's that listen, that was really, really cool to do that high roller event and take this picture at the very top and to have all those cool conversations and have folks come out. And then we extended over to Yard House. So Yard House is in the promenade below the link. And then we just kind of opened a tab for everybody. Some more people filtered in. Eric came out. Eric Kabitas from Include came out for that, and some other folks. So we continued the conversations. We talked about all kinds of stuff. I tried to browbeat people into believing in AI. No, I'm joking. I feel like it was nice to hear that skeptics, after going to some of the talks, we're no longer skeptics, and we're instead we're impressed and looking to anyways. But so we had some good conversations, not to go down that tangent. Let's see. From what I'd like to hear from you, I would love to hear more about Corey's talk. Like, I mean, that's a uh, pretty polarizing title. I love it, but definitely leads to what does that really mean? Did you want to?
Yeah.
Did you have any other thoughts on this high roller thing, though?
Let me see. Hold on. I was gonna show. Let's see. I was gonna hold on 1 second. I'm pulling up another thing here. Well, okay. So while I pull this up and while I'm thinking about it, that there was actually a panel that was that Corey, Tara Wheeler, Chris Weissapal, and one other, what was his name? I can't remember off the top of my head. There was a panel that they did actually about IoT devices and how IoT devices that are being manufactured, sent to consumers, are being abandoned either because a business somebody goes out of business, the company goes out of business, or they no longer want to support it, so they just deprecate it. But that across the board, we have companies that are producing these devices and not supporting them from a security perspective year over year over year, right? There's no incentive to do that. There's no regulations that force it. And so what is happening is that they're contributing again to the enshittification of the internet because they are introducing devices that are not supported, not updated, that have no process for that, and yet end up being vulnerable to a multitude of exploits and can be used for things like botnets to attack people because of the way that they are built. And they were talking about the different laws or different regulations that could be put into place, but really what it comes down to is that we as consumers need to give our support via dollars and items that we spent to those good citizens that actually have a plan for this sort of thing, right? That'll actually support devices for more than just 2 years, more than just the year that they have it. They gave examples for all of this as well. Like, and you would be shocked, right? Something like as simple as you think about Google and a Chromebook, right? And the devices that they build. Actually, when the Chromebooks first came out, Google only guaranteed 3 years of updates for that. But it was from 3 years from point of manufacture, not from point of purchase or date of purchase, which meant that during the pandemic, you had all of these school districts that were buying devices, Chromebooks for their students, but the Chromebooks were already 1 to 2 years post manufacture and would only get updates for a year, right? And so, like, we're just introducing this idea that it's okay to abandon technology, to abandon devices, leave them in an insecure state. And we know that things are changing so rapidly in the security space that all devices eventually are going to have some sort of an exploit, some sort of a vulnerability in them or against them that will make it easy for script kiddies, for people to actually use those devices to attack consumers, right? Period. It's like there's no good solution outside of this or for this problem outside of regulation, government, or like consumers have to change their behavior. I don't know what your thoughts on that are, but it was a really, really interesting conversation. I mean, because Corey's always been on that side of like, hey, like, companies do bad things and we need to hold their feet to the fire, right? Like they're causing this. Meanwhile, you've got Tara that's been on the privacy side of things. You got Chris Weispaul that's obviously like he's at Veracode, like secure code, like, and then I probably should look it up, but the fourth guy that was there was actually in the device space as they were having these conversations. That was just really interesting. And I'm just going on and on, Ken. Like,
no.
what are
I
your
was going to
thoughts
ask
there?
you. Well, I have all those questions for you. So, was there anything in there that you were sort of like, I kind of disagree with, or I'm not so sure about, or was it like, oh no, I actually agree with most of the takeaways there. Oh, cool pictures, by the way. That's pretty neat. Oh yeah, I forgot you had your glasses on that had the camera inside of it.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well. I've got a little video. I'll share some of this stuff on in Slack, and then also on Twitter or X, whatever it is nowadays, or on social media. Over the upcoming few days. But yeah, I like my biggest takeaway. Like, I don't dig the idea of government being the only way that we solve this problem, right? When more government regulation is sometimes it can be effective, but we end up shooting ourselves in the foot a lot of times when it comes to that. Like the overextension, and it's hard to get right out of the gate, and we're having to explain these things to
people
senators
that
don't understand it, right? Like, and they did bring that up as a point, but I don't love that. Like, I wish there was a more regulated, not I shouldn't say regulated,
yeah,
but there
no,
was more
because that is
self-regulation in the industry at large, right? So and to the point about Google, right? Like, when they had pushback on that, like, oh, it was only 3 years, they actually extended their Chromebook servicing to 10 years because of that problem, right? At which point those devices will most likely be out of date. They won't actually like need those updates anymore. They're mostly going to be out the door and no longer usable. So you've got companies that do the right thing like that, which is great. But where we struggle is there's no one in the industry that is actually pushing that to make sure that devices that are showing up are actually consumer safe, right? Or safe for the long haul and don't contribute to this idea of enshittification again. So
yeah, usually you kind of rely on free market to to kind of
self-regulate.
normalize to self-regulate, just because like there should be a financial impact. And I think we've definitely heard of folks trying to sway in that direction using like which does introduce a bit of regulation, because there's standards that now you have to put a standard on a box to say we do these things, and then maybe that's like a selling point, and that's part of the free market regulating itself. But I'm usually very like, involving the government should be you really have to think through that, and every time the more that you give to a government body, or once you've given that kind of authority to a governing body, good luck pulling back from that. Basically, once the government has control, good luck getting it back. That's my opinion. You always have to be very, very cognizant of what you're going to give away, in terms of I would even say freedoms or flexibility to the government. So I don't know. Like, I see the point in it. I think you have to be careful proposing something like that. I'd rather see the free market be a forcing function or a regulating function than a government body any day of the week.
Yeah.
But that's my opinion. What do I know? But that's just my personal opinion. So anyways, what's this right here? We got some video of the event.
Yeah, this is just video. This is just a short snippet of looking out over Link and the what we were seeing from up top there. You see Jerry there, right? Hi, Jerry. Hi, Emily. Yeah, there was just a few of these clips. So
That's really cool. I love your glasses, man. Those were super cool. Those Ray-Bans, right? With the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah,
dope.
that was the whole reason I got him. I was like, oh, we'll see how they do in these situations. So yeah, I'm sure we'll play some more with those as we do more events too. Yeah, I'm with you as far as that goes, right?
Hey, you know what was interesting, by the way, from that happy hour was that it had never dawned on me that some people don't watch the podcast or have never watched the podcast, but they've listened to the podcast. So that was really funny. Forget who it was, but they came up and they're like, "Oh no, I do remember who it was. It'll come back to me because I remember he and I chatted." But basically, he was like, "Oh." I think he recognized you first by your voice and was
by
like,
my voice.
"Wait, are you Seth?" And it was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, you are Seth." Okay. And it was just great. Like he was like, "Yeah, I've never watched. I've only listened, and I just had not planned on ever that being the case." So that was pretty cool. Yeah. Anyway, so that was neat. It was also just nice to meet people that. So like Malachi Constant was there. I'd never met him until in person, obviously, until that night. Yeah, there was Juan. I had never met in person either. So that was really, really neat. I think it was really cool. I don't know what to say. It was just very fun.
It was fun.
And our bartender was awesome. And getting things going. So that was cool. I will tell you, man, I don't think in that week that we were there, I hit REM sleep at all. Like I've been just trying to function off so little of sleep, and it's catching up for sure. It is definitely catching up. I don't know if you were able to. And actually, you remember how I said on the podcast before going there, I was like,
take care of yourself.
I was like, take care of yourself. And I also had said, I always bring workout clothes and don't like get exercise. I got exercise in once. I brought three pairs. I was like, I'm gonna do it this year. I actually like after I'd said that on the podcast, I was like, no, I'm gonna fix this. I'm gonna do workouts. And then I did one, and I was like, nope, it's awful. Everything hurts. No, never again. I'm just gonna go out and stay out late.
Yeah,
just deal with it. And that's what happened. So, but yeah, luckily I'll be back there on Monday.
Sweet. So you can rectify it there. Yeah. Let's see. There was what is it Larry's saying in Slack? Unsupported IoT devices sound like the potholes on the information superhighway that will never be filled. Yeah, I don't think we're ever getting away from that. And then, yeah. Oh, Larry's got a good idea. Slap an expiration date on the device to push the idea of product lifecycle management awareness. That's actually not a bad idea. Like that's a good way to actually self-regulate things is, hey, guess what? We know that this device is only going to get updates for this long, and let the consumer know that that's the case. Right. That could work. Right.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
But then that's an interesting take, right? Then you have issues though, like they brought up specifically it was like, was it a Samsung camera? Yeah, it was like a Samsung camera that they just deprecated, that Samsung deprecated in May of 2022 or May of 2023. But they announced the deprecation that it was going to get shut down because it was like cloud-based, right? They announced that it was going to get shut down the month before. Basically, they just said these devices are no longer going to work. And you had people that were using them, mid-pandemic for like security at like rental properties and at cabins and other places that just like they gave the consumer no time to actually plan out what was next and how they were going to replace those devices. So like you're going to run into issues like that. So like I go back and forth because I'm like, kudos to Samsung for basically saying these devices are no longer effective. We can't secure them. So we're just going to take them off the market. To, oh, we didn't give them any notification, but we also didn't have like an upgrade plan. So there's got to be some sort of force to either like, hey, at this point we're going to open source it, so we're no longer supporting it. You as a person can support it yourself, or the community at large can take it over, or you can choose not to use it. But there's just no upgrade path there for those devices. Let's see. Oh, what were your thoughts? Hoodie Pony brings this up. The Resorts World inspections. Did you happen to hear about that? See that?
No, not at all.
Okay, let me. DEF CON.
Is it an inspection like going in your room? Because like that became pretty standard after the Mandalay Bay shooting.
Yes.
I don't know anything about it, but I'm just going to say if people are complaining about people going into their room, that's why. At least from my understanding, because this happened the first time I went to Vegas after the Mandalay Bay shootings, or shooting, whatever. Anyways, very unfortunate, very, very sad, obviously. In any case, the first year I was there after, especially if you keep your do not disturb on for a certain period of time, they do a wellness check where it's not really a wellness check. They're just literally forcing their way into your room to make sure that there's no stockpile of weapons, dead bodies, anything like that. And it became like a standard policy. Now, that's nothing to do with, I don't know what's going on with Resort Worlds. I don't even know what I assume that's a resort down there. I don't know, but I'm just putting that out there before I even have any information.
Yeah. I just dropped the link in there, right? Well, this is one of them. It was a pretty big thing before DEF CON actually started. And like I did hear some things from attendees during the conference on security actually forcing their way into various rooms at Resorts World specifically. This did not necessarily happen at some of the other properties that were DEF CON hotels, but it was at Resorts World. And they even sent out they handed this paper out, right? Wes McGrew, he's got a tweet out with it that basically, thanks for choosing to be here. There's a well-known hacking convention going, and what they're committed to their guest safety, and they were conducting scheduled brief visual and non-intrusive room inspections beginning Monday, August 5th. And even rooms with a privacy sign will be included as a part of the inspection process. And like, so I get what you're saying from an MGM perspective, like what happened there, like what they're looking at. Reports from attendees or like hotel guests during this period, it seems like the security was looking for basically radio antennas, right? Like I'm questioning what it is they were actually targeting, because in the hands of a dedicated an attacker, right? Like what is it that actually shows that they're going to go after other guests from a safety perspective? I mean, obviously like weapons, but most of these hackers, it's going to be a computer, right? Everyone's got a laptop. Everyone's got an iPad. I don't know what it was that they thought they were going to prevent by doing this sort of a blanket. We're just going to search all these rooms.
Yeah. By the way, I finally figured out where Resort World is at, because believe it or not, I had no idea that was a thing, a place. So so
it's super nice.
Between, yeah, it's okay. Well, now it's on that end where it's on the farther end where like the big Trump Tower. It's like after Trump Tower, basically, on that side. So that's a kind of a ways out, but not too bad. It's closer to the convention center area than it is.
Yeah,
because obviously, like for those who don't know, yeah, right. Like Black Hat's held on the opposite side at Mandalay Bay, basically, and then of that strip, and then that's kind of the far edges. But anyways, I just didn't know where it was at, so that gives me some frame of reference for what we're talking about. Yeah, when it happened to me, because I was actually staying at the Encore at Wynn Hotel, and we had done an all-night hacking event for HackerOne, right? So we were basically, it was just basically literally all night long, and Sorry, give me one sec here. Yes, I do want Chick-fil-A. Sorry, my wife is asking me. Just I know that's weird, but it's time. It's time. Sorry, weird to respond now, but it's time sensitive. Anyways, cool. So, anyways, yeah. So we had done an all night thing, and then what that meant was basically I hadn't slept, and none of us had in like a day and a half, or not much. Anyways, so slept all day. Had the do not disturb on all day. I guess I hit probably 12 hours or something like that of being in the room with do not disturb on, and like they forced their way in, and I actually was like pissed. I was actually pissed off about it because I was dead asleep,
Yeah.
like I'm in undies basically, right? Feeling pretty vulnerable, we'll say. And I'm like, okay. And then there are like two giant men standing over me while I'm in bed. I'm like, imagine that, right? Just imagine that. So yeah,
You're like
when you
fight or
say
flight reaction there is going to be pretty intense, right?
it's
Like,
pretty
yeah.
intense. Yeah. I was like, what the hell is going on? So, and I complained about it and everything. That's funny because, and this was like 5 years ago or whatever. Um, when I complained about it, they explained the whole policy to me and the reason why. And that was why they said, well, all hotels after that event, when it's at their discretion, but after some period of time, they will come in, especially if you've got the do not disturb sign on and they don't see any activity of anybody coming or going. They do that. Now, doing that for a radio antenna, okay, like let me put it this way. That was still a pretty fresh incident. So although I was initially pissed off when they explained everything to me, I was like, all right, well, I'm torn. I'm not as upset anymore, but I am still. It's still weird and still very invasive, and it's a privacy thing, and it's a safety thing for me too, not just your safety. It's weird when two giant men come in the room. Um, anyways, so but I was still a little like, okay, but that was all a little fresh, and I kind of get it. If it's for fucking antennas, no. Like if it's for physical safety, yeah, sure, okay. I don't want anybody getting hurt. If it's because like your laptop might get pwned, I think that is absolutely horseshit and not cool. So I don't know what the reason is. I don't know what the intentions are behind it. If it was for physical safety, that's one thing. If it's for like, we've got some hackers, we want to make sure they don't have antennas, like it's a totally different thing. They've got
Yeah.
also, I just point out they should have enough cameras because like most of
You
those
know,
resorts have cameras everywhere where if you've got an antenna and like it's like on the balcony or something. I mean, anyways, all right, I'll shut up.
yeah.
That's my take.
No. I'm actually showing this thread because it's fairly good, right? Like, so, because somebody actually like, went and complained about it because they forgot to give them the letter, right? And the person told me they were looking for potentially malicious objects, and he gave the example of a router, right? Like, I'm just like, right? Like,
Yeah.
number one, you've got physical security guards that are not trained in any sort of cyber response, trying to identify malicious technical objects that, like, anything at that route could be used to justify, some sort of, hey, we're going to kick you out of the hotel. You have a laptop. We're going to kick you out. Oh, you happen to have a Flipper Zero, right? Like, there's just like, there's so many assumptions that are going into this. That was the big controversy around it, is just like, what are we going to do? So most of the attendees, especially from DEF CON, are basically like, hey, guess what? We're probably never going to stay there again because of this. Now, at Resorts World probably doesn't care when it comes down to it, right? They've got so many other people that are willing to stay that it's not going to affect their bottom line like one way or another. But yeah, you're going to run into this sort of thing at any of these. It's kind of a knee-jerk reaction from the hotel to actually, do this sort of thing, right? Yeah, unconventional tech, right? There's a lot of quotes that are in here. Yeah, man. Yeah. Anyway, so that was a controversy. You had like semi badge controversies going on at DEF CON as well.
What was the
I know
badge
we're not.
controversy?
Okay, now I'm going to have to find that too. So during the badge talk at DEF CON, one of the presenters was asked to leave the stage, didn't want to, and was escorted out. Right.
Cool.
And and then he went online and basically said that DEF CON had not paid their bills for the building of the badge. He was asked to leave because they had put some sort of a mechanism in the firmware of the badge asking for funds through some sort of Bitcoin wallet, right? Yeah, there you go.
I at least have the video of it happening if you wanted to see it.
Yeah. Okay. And so there's that's going on. DEF CON responded. And, for those that don't know, I run Hacker Tracker at DEF CON, or I build the iOS app. I help, that team out. So I have some back channels there. As far as like the controversy goes from DEF CON's perspective, it's really that this engineer worked for the firm that they initially hired to build the firmware and help like design the badge. There was missed dates and missed delivery. DEF CON had to actually step in and take over development and switch from using this firm to using someone else because of the some of the missed dates and missed communications from the firm. They paid their bills, but apparently I don't know if the engineering team didn't actually pay their people or whatever it is, but there is a DEF CON response in there as well. So there's a lot of like he said, she said going back and forth on this. That being said, the badge this year, this electronic badge was pretty awesome. It was a Raspberry Pi that had a DEF CON game like ROM built into it, and was using a Game Boy Advance emulator. So you could actually load other games onto the badge and play them, like Super Mario Brothers or Pokemon, whatever you wanted. So like it was a pretty cool device, a good idea, super well executed and done, outside of the fact that the firmware is a little broken on the shipped badges. So you had to actually update them during the conference, find one of the goons with an updated firmware that you could flash the badge with. But really well done, right? From an attendee perspective, somebody that was using the badge, was really fun. But there was controversy. It seems like every year there's some sort of controversy like that. Something goes wrong, and then somebody gets up in arms about it. There's any large conference, any large gathering, when you have that many people, that's usually going to occur.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get why that's upsetting. Also, I didn't realize resort. So this is really, really weird. When I was at the Encore and I had that people walk in the room I was staying in, I could actually see Resort Worlds being built because it was being built at that time. I didn't realize that was the one, the big red one that looks like the. Actually, funny side note on Resort Worlds, the owner of Win and Encore, when I was watching it get built, it had half strips of one color that looked like the same lines in between the windows as Win and Encore, and another half that was like red or whatever. And the staff told me that the owners of Win and Encore at Win were in the process of trying to sue them for having the same color scheme and the same kind of curved view. And so that's why there were two different colors. So in the process of fixing that and removing that old color scheme for the new one. So I don't know, little fun trivia for you, but there's no
everybody's too happy.
Yeah. But I mean, I get why people are upset. Don't. I mean, I think part of it, like what I was reading, is that they came in, they asked them like, "Hey, what are you here looking for?" And they had this list, and it said stuff like random USB cables and stuff that's fairly innocuous. So basically, it's just anything kind of is what it feels like. If it said there were specific, like, okay, that I don't know, a barrel of gunpowder, it's like, yeah, okay, well, I get that, but whatever. So in any case, that's unfortunate, but yeah, there's always some dramas. The badge thing sounds right in line with that. Some more drama. But yeah, overall, hopefully it was. I just hope people really did enjoy it and it sounds like everybody we talked to had a really good time.
Yeah, and they did. It like honestly, it was a good year, right? Like I mean, from my perspective, like the app, like Hacker Tracker, and like probably at least like 75% of the attendees were actually using it. I think our biggest day we had 26,000 devices that it was on, which is huge, right? Like, but from a attendee perspective, having everything under one roof at Las Vegas Convention Center made it so much easier and accessible to get to everything. Now, it doesn't mean that you weren't still standing in lines to get to the popular villages or communities or talks, right? Because that's always going to happen when you have 25,000 plus people under one roof. But it made it easier to be like, oh, this is too busy. Let me go see what's going on in AI Village, or go check out. Oh, I didn't even mention this. The DARPA AICC, the Cyber Defense Challenge, right? Where you've got automated hacking that's going on. That this year, DARPA put in some real money into the space where it was going on. They basically designed a city on the convention floor. Like, it was almost like Disney style. You go into this room, a ride, you go into the city. There's all these hacking challenges. They've got smoke coming up out of the vents. They've designed like all of these different spaces where you can go and help secure an automated city that's being run by an AI, right? Like, it was incredible, right? Like
That
the
sounds
amount
incredible.
of time that they spent building like an enclosed space for the event, that as the event was running, so you could watch like kind of, you know, what the different teams or what the different AIs that the teams had built were going after, whether it was like Nginx or Apache or something else, like trying to fuzz and hack these different things. But at the same time, there was a space for you as an attendee to go in and explore this city and solve different puzzles and hack things. And like ambassadors were there, and then you could go talk to. They also had like Google and Anthropic and Microsoft were like talking about the different LLMs that they have and the different AI models that exist. Like, it was so well done. I was blown away. I had no expectations walking into it. So well done. So I just have to give a shout out there because that was super fun. Anyway, so this, you talk about it being all under one room. There was so much to explore, all under one roof. It was so much to explore, but it didn't feel like in past years where it's been spread over, 5 different hotels. You're like, oh, I want to go to AppSec Village because like this, track 1 is full. And that's where, Portswigger or, David or whoever, right? Like James Kettle's speaking. I'm just going to go to AppSec Village for the next hour. Oh, crap. It's going to take me an hour to get to the AppSec Village because I got to go through 3 casinos, walk through the desert sun, and then back. So that was a good thing. I did hear complaints that it was like, oh, it's a convention center, so it felt a little sterile, right? Like it's just like a blank space. It's really hard to customize and fill as, community, oriented. They will get better at that. I think the communities and villages and like the presenters, the creators will get better at customizing that space because we're kind of used to being in these, like stuck in these different rooms where it's very easy to kind of build and turn off the lights and, make it an environment that is inviting to guests to sit down and collaborate and to do different things. So I think we'll get better at that year over year. It is a pain in the ass to get there, right? From any of these hotels. I don't think it's going to get easier. But take it with a grain of salt because having it under one roof was, in my own opinion, it was a better experience once you get on site, once you were involved in the con than it has been in years past because of that. So,
yeah. I usually stay at the Westgate, which is because I do the competition stuff that's at the Las Vegas Convention Center. Anyways, Westgate's usually pretty easy to get to walk to it from there. Some of those other hotels are, unless I'm messing up the geography. But
no, you're right. Yeah, Westgate. What else is close? There's a Spring Hill Suites that's right there. I mean, Resorts World works because there's actually, Elon Musk's Hyperloop. You can actually jump on that and get over to it pretty quickly. Sahara? Actually, Fountain Blue is right next to it, right? That new one, but it is higher end. So I think there's it's a little bit more expensive. Anyway, it's just you're gonna have to go walk through the sun, right? Like that's the biggest takeaway. At some point, you're gonna have to walk through the sun to get to the convention center. We've been going for an hour. Yeah,
it's like 100. Yeah, I got a meeting coming up with my engineering team to sync on some stuff, so I do have to get running. But yeah, it was hot. It was really bad heat wise the first day, but then I think it started to clear up not clear up, but like cool down a little bit. But man, it was rough. Bit. So
it's all relative. Yeah.
Yeah. My only regret from that, well, I'm sure I have other regrets, like not meeting enough people, not seeing enough people. But one of the big ones that I had a concert scheduled for Thursday night, but I didn't realize that was the night of the BJJ SmackDown. So like I missed the BJJ SmackDown thing, and I had to, because I went to that concert, and that concert was, like I told you, there was still violence at the concert. Believe me, there's a different type of, it was nuts. But I told you about that. But it's a story for another time. But yeah, that was my main regret. But overall, I'd say this year, just zooming out for me, it was more business vendory type stuff at Black Hat, which is just hilarious because that's never, I've been going there for at least 14 years. And this is the first time where it's like, oh no, I'm not there as much for the one side as the other side of the week. But anyways, it was fun. It was new for me. It was a new sort of thing. So interesting.
Cool. Yep. Well, it's good. I mean, if you want to talk more about it, though, or if anyone that's listening, there is some chatter going on in Slack. Talos, and Juan and Hoodie Pony. There's others. Larry. Drop in your favorite talks, like what you actually saw. I'd really be interested to hear what other people experienced and what their favorites were. I'll drop a couple of mine in Slack as well, and we'll continue the conversation there. It will also be in the newsletter. If you're not signed up to the newsletter, please do so. We'll summarize our thoughts on things and the episodes as we do them. That'll come out every Friday. We didn't do it last Friday because we were out of pocket, but it'll start up again this Friday. That's just at news.absoluteappsec.com. So sign up there. And otherwise, there's going to be some new merch on merch.absoluteappsec.com. Within the next couple of days, probably related to DEF CON and Black Hat and HackerSummerCamp, because that's always fun. Maybe there'll be a big wheel on it or something like that. But yeah, I think that's everything for now. Ken, any last minute thoughts before we wrap it up today?
Oh, just thanks for everybody who came out to the High Roller event and the happy hour. Thank you for everybody who's listening. Please sign up if you plan on attending our course in Melbourne. Please get your registrations in now. Do not delay on that. Let's see. So yeah, I do look forward to seeing everybody, because Seth and I are doing a co-keynote next month at AppSec and DevOps Summit there in Melbourne, and then we'll be doing the training as well, separate from the conference. So yeah, just thank you basically to everybody. And I'm going to sit here and try to rehydrate and recover from
that's
last
what we're
week
doing
before
today.
I do next week. Or I go back next week. So.
Yeah. Well, appreciate everyone. Thanks for listening, and we will see you all online.